What you got going on?
Yeah, we'll see.
Call this regular Georgetown County Council meeting on August 25th to order.
You like that, huh?
The first item on the agenda is the invocation. Mr. Charlton would do us the honors.
He really would have needed it.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the agenda. We have two recommended revisions, moving report 15A and 15B up front. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Mr. Charlton. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Goggins. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. So, report 15A is the recognition of employee of the quarter. Mr. Ackerman?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. We're going to do it a little different tonight since the person who is receiving the employee of the quarter is not in the audience. He's actually back behind the curtain pulling the strings right now. So we'd like to ask Mr. Randy Akers to please step out from behind the curtain so everybody can kind of see what he is. Yeah, there we go. So Randy was among several candidates nominated for Employee of the Quarter. He received the nomination because of all the work primarily that he has done in transforming the county to this live/virtual format. When COVID-19 hit, we were relegated to the online Zoom meetings that folks couldn't attend, and it became apparent that this was going to drag on for some time, so the need arose to have a meeting in such a format that we have now. Randy was kind of tasked with pulling that together. This is not necessarily his field of expertise. He actually works in our Parks and Recreation Department. Randy sort of learned on the fly, pulled all this stuff together. I think he's actually done a tremendous job. Heard a lot of good input from the public on the streaming aspect, the ability to watch the meetings. We've had a few hiccups from time to time, and y'all probably see Randy's the guy that flies out and tries to change batteries in a microphone when need be. But aside from that, he's also been tasked and has put together a whole series of videos for Parks and Recreation. Since we can't do stuff in person, they're trying to do video activities that folks can get engaged in. He's put about 60 of those together to date. So with all that in mind, and it kind of seems to be Employee of the Quarter seems to relegate around the folks who sort of step outside of their normal roles and go above and beyond the call of duty. So tonight we are recognizing Randy Akers as Employee of the Quarter for Georgetown County. Photo op. Yes, and the plaque is forthcoming.
Next, we have a presentation from Coastal RTA by our good buddy, Mr. Piasek. Did I pronounce that right?
Close, Piasek.
Okay.
Really, this is definitely different. Guys, I feel like I have to yell, but maybe I don't. Just want to thank you all, the council and everyone here and Ms. Christian for the opportunity to come and just give you all a quick update on all things Coast RTA. It's obviously we've been rolling with the punches like everybody else as it relates to the pandemic, but this past May it kind of went by. I celebrated my 5th year anniversary with Coast RTA. Maybe Ms. Johnson might feel like that's been feels a little bit longer than that, but in that time, I'm really happy to report that our board of directors, my staff, and myself, we've been working really hard to make the Waccamaw Regional Transportation Authority, commonly or affectionately known as Coast RTA, move it closer to big boy transit, as I like to call it. We've almost flipped our fleet. We've made some major fleet upgrades to our system. We've improved our maintenance practices. You can go to that next slide, please. We've introduced a smartphone app. We've added signs to our bus stops, some of which have started to show up in Georgetown County. Made some operational improvements, a few. Our system is easier to use. It's more reliable with enhanced on-time performance, and it's definitely more efficient, and the proof is in the pudding. We've had a 32% increase in ridership over the past 5 years without really any appreciable level of increase in level of service. And I'm extremely proud of that. Next slide. Obviously, you know, having a global pandemic to sort of take the wind out of our sails wasn't really what we were looking for. Obviously, it's affected all of us. And we've had our challenges as well. But we've been able to muddle through it. We've maintained our service. We haven't really had any service cuts. Our ridership was reduced pretty low at the beginning. It's rebounded to about 60% of our normal levels, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We're able to endeavor, if you will, to maintain social distancing within the vehicle. It doesn't always happen, but we are asking our passengers to use a mask, and we offer them one if they need one. So we've had pretty good success with that. In March, when the federal government passed the CARES Act, we got a nice shot in the arm. We received about $7 million in funding through the CARES Act, through our urban and rural programs. And that's allowed us, obviously, to stay in operation. We've kept ourselves whole. We haven't had to furlough any employees. We've spent aggressively to protect our employees and our passengers alike. We've put shields on all our buses for the drivers. We actually discontinued fares for a time. We reinstituted those in July. Now that we have protection equipment for the drivers, obviously disinfectants, masks, the whole 9 yards to try to keep our system as clean as possible. We're essentially operating 100% federal right now and able to pool our other resources, and that's really set us up quite nicely for the future. In fact, our board is meeting tomorrow to discuss a financial plan, basically a 5-year plan on laying out some service improvements and that sort of thing, and that's what I wanted to kind of talk to you all about. The CARES Act has also allowed us to put some money in the bank. We kind of lived paycheck to paycheck for the 5 years that I've been here. And with the influx of CARES Act funding, we've been able to pool resources so that we can put some money in bank for an operations and maintenance reserve. So having a reserve account that would cover about 2 months of operation for the next time the feds go into furloughs and shut down for a period of time, because we know it'll happen. And that will allow us to bridge those gaps a lot easier without depending on our funders. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we put together a 5-year plan with this influx of dollars for the region that includes some operational increases, some service increases. Beginning this October with a new service that will connect Myrtle Beach with North Myrtle Beach. And then in April, we have plans to increase the frequency of the existing Route 16, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but that's the bus route that connects Georgetown with Myrtle Beach. Offer some semblance of local service in Georgetown County, and I want to talk about that a little bit. North Myrtle Beach summer shuttle, similar to the entertainment shuttle that we provide in Myrtle Beach, and then some improvements north and west of our service area in Conway, Ainer area. It is our hope that with that increase in service, we'll have a delta between what we've been doing this year. I mean, you saw 544,000 trips in FY19. To show the world what an increased investment in transit will do from a benefits perspective. And so our goal is to sort of let that sort of speak for us and try to move towards a referendum for our own funding. Obviously way too early to talk about that at this point, given the condition of the economy and such. Next slide. But in April, we fully intend to increase service to Georgetown County. Currently, our Route 16 essentially operates on a 3-hour frequency during the day. We're going to double that frequency, so it'll go to 90 minutes. Having those increased seats between Georgetown and Myrtle Beach and up the Waccamaw Neck, I think was critical before we added local service. So concurrently with that, we want to add local service. So one route to come in and start in April of next year. We don't really know exactly where that route needs to go yet. And I'll talk a little bit about sort of the public involvement process that we want to go forward, moving forward in the COVID era. But if and I wish I had a map, but if we put all of these locales on a map, you would see that trying to serve those with one vehicle is going to provide a level of service to everybody. It won't be a very good level of service. So I think it's important for us to identify maybe 3 or 4 of these points and put it on a route that would have close to hourly frequencies as possible. And so we want to use the public involvement process to kind of figure that out moving over the next few months. And then also with that, with those increases in service, we will be adding additional paratransit service, which is a requirement of the federal government. So that's for those with disabilities who are unable to use the fixed route. We'd be able to pick them up and take them to medical and other types of trip purposes. Next slide. So before the whole COVID-19 thing hit, we did do some public meetings last fall and into the winter. With some limited success. We had one in this building that had good turnout last fall. We want to sort of start that process over, but with a little bit more of a social media, Zoom meeting, Facebook Live type of format. And we'll look to county staff, the staff from the different municipalities to help us. We're in the process of launching a new website. That's got pretty nice technology in terms of gathering input via surveys and that sort of thing. So we're hoping to essentially start this campaign where we'll push people to go to the website, offer their thoughts on where we should go in Georgetown County, and hopefully come back to you in the January, February timeframe with a plan for what that route's going to look like and schedule information and that sort of thing. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Mr. Chairman, in light of the pandemic, and we've had dialogues in the past about the possibility of increasing transportation through the rural areas, how is that looking at this time in light of the pandemic and kind of slow down on things? And as long as we can keep moving that dialogue forward and continuing, how's that looking?
Well, I've actually had that question posed to me before, and it usually takes, when you implement new service, it takes about a year for it to mature. So even though one might think it's not a great time to start the service, I think it's as good a time as any, because when you put that service out there, it takes a while for people to get used to it and figure out how they can use it in their pattern of life. So I think April 1st is what we're looking at to start some service. I have the money to do it. It's sustainable basically for 5 years for the most part. We will be looking to get some help within that time frame from the municipalities that we're connecting. But it's stuff. You know, we know that there's a desire down here to get some more service, and obviously we want to try to provide it. So I just don't want to preclude what it looks like. You know, connecting all those dots on that slide before won't really serve people the way they need to be served. I mean, we had a route down here several years ago that kind of went up 701 one trip and then went out to Andrews and then down 71 south, and it was maybe 2.5 hours of, you know, frequency for each one of those legs. I think a better approach is to start small, get one route that connects a few of those dots, and then come back later and add service as we grow it. I mean, I think our first foray will be April 1st. And as I've mentioned in the past, it's critical that we increase the number of seats going between Georgetown and Waccamaw Neck and up to Myrtle Beach to get to some of those jobs. So if, you know, we have more collector services in Georgetown, we want to have enough seats to go up, and for people to come back, you know, come down. So
Very good. Look forward to that.
thank you, sir. I mean, and we want to look to some of like the South Georgetown the council to help us get the word out that this is out there, and encourage people to go to the website and give us some input. We'll do a Facebook Live or some sort of Zoom meeting where people can call in and ask us questions about what's going on and that sort of thing, you know, soon here this fall, just to start getting some input from folks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.
We next come to public comment. We set aside 30 minutes each meeting for to hear from the public. Teresa, do we have anyone who has signed up to speak?
Mr. Chairman, we do have 15 speakers tonight, including one who submitted comments via email. So each speaker will have up to 2 minutes. And the first will be Bishop John Smith.
I appreciate this, but it takes me 2 minutes to get warm up. But I'm here today, and we have some pastors here with me. Pastor Ted, First Baptist with the pastors stand, that came to be with me today, and some other folk that stand to be with me here today. And my purpose is that we are concerned about Georgetown County. We love this county. I moved here 45 years ago, and it took me 45 years to get here. And I believe tonight I have a mandate from God to talk to this council and to you that are here today, to people that say they love Georgetown County, they love the resident, and with all the problem that's going on, that we need to try to work together. There's a scripture in Galatians that says, the 5th chapter, if we bite and devour one another, see that we are not consumed. And we are concerned because black life do matter. And when I say black life, I'm not talking about a group. I'm talking about the knee on a black man's neck, which represent to all of us the oppression that we have suffered since slavery. And the only person who can take the knee off the neck is the person who put the knee on the neck. So I appeal to this council and to all of you. I have observed, I've rode this county. I've prayed in so many different businesses. I've prayed for businesses. I've prayed for this council. because I believe, and hear me tonight, that every one of you that are elected wasn't your party, wasn't your friend that elected you, but I believe God appointed you where you are for this time that we are having in Georgetown. I believe the leaders of these different groups that try to hold us accountable, God has appointed you for this time. But I come with a warning that if we don't serve the people of Georgetown County, humble ourselves and get our priorities straight, that we're going to destroy our own county. So I appeal to you tonight, like Paul said in the book of Corinthians, the 13th chapter, behold, I show you a more excellent way. Though I speak with tongues of men and angels and have not love, it profit me nothing. Though I give my body to be burned, though I give all my goods to the poor, it profit me nothing. Why can't we get along? Why can't we work with each other? And I have the nerve to say it. If I have a problem with you, why do I always have to call a news conference? Why can't I come to your office like God said in Isaiah 1, come, let us reason together, say the Lord. Though we disagree, we agree on one thing, that we love this county and we want it to grow. We want it to prosper. While we are wasting energy fighting each other, we can use that energy in a positive way to grow this county. Nobody want to move or come to our county with a business where there's bickering and fighting and infighting going along. So if you want to help Georgetown County, let's work together. It's a biblical principle. One can chase 1,000, but God said if two get together, you can chase 10,000. So we can do more work together than apart from each other. I beg you tonight to listen and to hear, my brothers and sisters. I don't care who you are. We are all made in the image of God. Somebody said black life don't matter. I'm a black man. My life matters. If not to you, to my wife, at least to my church, at least to my community. Amen. So I believe that we can change this county. Georgetown can be an example to others to say that we are going to love each other. You don't have to agree with everybody, but you love each other. And guess what? If somebody don't love you, you don't have to go home with them. Go on to your house. But show them love. We are at a critical time where disease and plague is on the rampage, destroying us, killing blacks, white, and everybody. And we are arguing about other things. Let's put it into place that every kid can get a good education, because one of these children in our community, God might have put in them the cure for cancer or Alzheimer. And if we don't educate that kid, we'll never get the cure. And all of our company, all of our country will suffer. So when we hold back anybody, we are actually holding back ourselves. So I come tonight, we want to push forward. We want to do some great things in Georgetown. I came here 45 years ago with a wife and 2 boys and $5,000 and a dream. And I want to say that, and the reason I got here is because there were some people in Georgetown praying for a black man to come to Georgetown and do a special work. Now, I've been abused by whites. I was born in McClenderville, South Carolina. I've been called nigger by white folk. I've been called too dark by black folk. I've been put down. You ought to live in my body. And if I can love the whites in Georgetown, the black in Georgetown, the haters in Georgetown, why can't we all get together? It's time to lay down our sword and our guns and to pick up the torch of love. I would never dishonor this flag. I fought for it. I was in the Navy for 2 years. I went into reserve to Georgetown County, and I fought for this flag. But I tell you this, my brothers and sisters, that flag has gotten dirty with the blood of innocent black and others. And it needs a good washing, not a burning. I come tonight to express this to you. I might not be back in 40 years, but you listen to me. I came, and I say this again, with $5,000. We have over $3 million worth of property in the next block. Only 200 and something members. I went to the bank to build a new church in 1998. Had $300 and something thousand in the banks in Georgetown. They told me a black man can't build $1 million church. I told them the devil is a lie. They said they checked my credit. They said it's good, everything is good, everything, but we can't support you. I said, give me 3 months. Don't say no, I'll come back. And in 3 months, we paid all the church bill and came back with 50,000 more. Somebody jumped up and said, give that man the money. Let him build that $1 million church. And we paid for it in 10 years. If one man can come here with $5,000 and turn a block around, got 15 people working full time that we pay and never laid anybody off, how much more can a county like Georgetown do to lift up its people? Anytime we push anybody down, we hurt ourselves. But if we lift them up, we bless ourselves. I appeal to you tonight. Let's get together. Let's do it. Let's do some great things for Georgetown County. If you say you love this county, if you say you care about this county, then act like you love this county. Remember, to our councilmen, to our community leaders, God put you where you are because you're a servant, not a master. My only master is the Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm not fearing any man, because I got a dream of a Georgetown where black and white can work together, where black and white can worship together, where black and white can create jobs together, where black and white can open doors for each other, where every man is respected as a man, every woman is respected as a woman, and all of us will respect each other. I honor you tonight, but I want you to know you've been chosen. And if you miss this opportunity, one day you're going to stand before God. And God said, a tall, dark-skinned, black, handsome man that I appointed came to stand up before you, and you ignore what he said. I love you, God. I'm not here with any malice or no hatred in my heart. I love this country. I love all of the people of this country. Everybody don't love me, and I don't worry about that. But I want to represent the God that we serve. And I thank these pastors for having the courage to stand with me and say enough is enough. If my people that are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, amen, I will hear from heaven. I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. In a car, where is the biggest window in your car? It's the windshield. So you can have a vision of where you're going. There's only a small mirror where you can look back to where you come from. Because it isn't important where you come from, but it is important where you're going. And I come because I want us to go somewhere. I want us to do something. Please forgive me if I ran over time. But that's just my short message. If I had some amen, I'd move on up. So bless you tonight. I honor you guys. I respect you. Everyone in here. Amen. I'm nobody. I'm just John. But nobody can ever love anybody more than John can. I love Ted. I love Frazier. I love Rob. I love Carl. I love these pastors. And I work day and night to try to help them to get where they're going. Now I'll say this, Ted and I and Rod and some others, every Thanksgiving, have a big community Thanksgiving service and give all the money to the nonprofits in Georgetown. I've never seen some of you at any of those services. We can't just show up when it's our job. We got to show up because it's our community. Amen? You can't love me on Monday and then hate me on Tuesday. Amen? You got to be consistent. If we're going to bring this community together, we got to have a little less chief and some more Indians. Amen? Everybody want to be the big dog. Amen. I want to be the little dog. Amen. But please, hear me tonight, citizen of Georgetown. Put away your hatred and your malice. Let love prevail. As I close, John the Apostle wrote 3 books at the end of the Bible. He's an old man. He's been religious all his life. He said, what can I say to these people before I die? Little children, love ye one another. The greatest of these is love. You can love the devil out of folk. Amen? I've been married for 51 years and never slept on the couch one night. Because I know how to love my wife and she know how to love me. I'd leave you with that. God bless you, my brother.
Thank you, Bishop.
Oh, excuse me. We don't want to defund the police. Let's give the sheriff a little more money.
The next speaker is Whitney Hills. Bill Hills.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of council. Appreciate the time tonight and the time that you dedicate to our county. I'm here today asking you to vote against Ordinance 2039, which in part declares 16-acre parcel in Murrells Inlet as surplus property. I have with me well over 200 signatures, 200 emails and signatures in support of your vote against the sale and in favor of turning this property into a much-needed park for the community. I'm sure that given more time, I could have come up with more signatures, but since no one in Murrells Inlet was consulted about this, we have been playing catch-up the entire time. I've heard some negative comments about this proposal from the county administrator and our councilman. I've heard this secondhand, and I'd like to address what I've heard. Number one, the location of the property is not conducive to a park, that it's not centrally located to the population of the community. If that were the case, then the existing park in Murrells Inlet, the only park in Murrells Inlet, the 2 baseball fields and a few pieces of playground equipment, is also in a bad spot because the 2 properties are only 400 yards apart. Also, if you look at a map of Murrells Inlet and put your finger on the center of the population, I would like for you to point out any property that is available for any recreation. There is none. Number two, there's too much wetlands on the property. I've had a wetlands professional in Murrells Inlet conduct a cursory inspection of the 9 acres on the west side of Pond Road, and he finds an estimated 4 acres of wetlands and 5 acres of high ground. What better place for a low-budget, environmentally based park with dirt hiking and dirt bike trails and a boardwalk through and around the wetlands? I've also heard that the property was once a dump and is not suitable for a playground. The property was a dump years ago, and if the property is contaminated and not suitable for a playground, how can it be suitable for up to 20 houses that our councilman says he will guarantee R10 zoning for? If this site is contaminated, the county will have to clean it up before it sells it, or it'll have to clean it up to keep it. People in Murrells Inlet have heard enough hollow statements about reducing density, and now you want to sell county land for a development. My goodness, folks, we don't need another housing development in Murrells Inlet. We need a park. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that it comes as any surprise when I say, now my 2 minutes, that I say that in relation to our population and monetary contribution to the county, we are underserved and underrepresented. The fact that just last year we couldn't get support for the purchase of a single lot next door to our community center for a small park and parking, that left us shaking our heads. Every project that our community requests funds for, the first question that council asked is, how much are you going to raise for this project from the community? And we always respond. Now we find council is selling property that we didn't even know was owned by the county in our community without one word to this community. This has been the story for too many years, and I want to remind you of something. This is not a warning, but it's just a reminder. In the small area north of Brook Green Gardens and bordering Horry County, there are somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 Georgetown County citizens, the vast majority of whom have very little, if any, historical connection to Georgetown County. They have seen and are becoming more and more aware of the lack of recognition and representation that they get from their councilman. These people contribute a huge part of the budget that the Weston County enjoys. When asked why we should continue to pay taxes to Georgetown County and continually get overlooked and taken for granted, more and more people are asking themselves, why are we not in Horry County and paying lower taxes? I'm asking the rest of County Council to help your districts by helping us, not just in voting against 2039, but also on issues in the future. Don't take Murrells Inlet for granted. It's very important in the upcoming redistricting that Murrells Inlet have its own district as the population allows. This can make a huge difference in how the people see their place in Georgetown County and how they respond to you. Thank you again for your time, and I would again appreciate your vote against Ordinance 2039. And I will leave these over 200 emails somewhere right up here. Mr. Councilman, I would suggest that you take time and read what your constituents have to say about this project and the fact that no one took the time or ever takes the time to let them know what's going on in their district. Thank you.
Roger Giardino.
Good evening, County Council. I represent Wes and Gina Gordon, and we're also against Ordinance 2039 for different reasons. We ask that you delay the reading of the second reading or at least table it. Specifically, the stormwater permit application of 2010 for Pond Road, when it was constructed, states that the stormwater traveling southeast through an unnamed tributary into the main creek of Murrells Inlet However, in reality, if you actually look where the water is going, the county installed 4,200 linear feet of pipe, and it conveys the stormwater due west to a tributary on my client's property and drains into Collins Creek and then Waccamaw River. My clients noticed this years ago and contacted the county, who told them that it had always been that way. However, the pond road had not been constructed at that, except for 10 years ago. Now we have this current problem with the Georgetown County Water and Sewer water tank. And their permit, it also indicates that the storm water is traveling southeast to Merle's Inlet, when in fact the storm is traveling due west under Pond Road. It's the same pipe that's now failing, and it's being repaired as we speak due to the sinkholes that are forming on Pond Road. So right now, if you're going to sell a parcel and deem it for 20 different lots, where's that water going to go, and is that going to impact my client's property as well? It seems like the application is inconsistent with reality and it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Wesley Gordon. Robert Kaiser.
Good evening, members of the Georgetown County Board of Supervisors. My name is Robert Kaiser. I'm a resident at the community by the name of Lakeshore, which is in close proximity to the area that is being discussed under ordinance number 20-39. I'm here to represent the members of our community, which I have in hand a petition signed by almost 90% of the residents there. We have 67 homes. And we are requesting that the board will not approve, you will be opposed and you will deny that this parcel be changed and that the parcel of this land will remain as standing, as is, as unaffected to our local environment. We believe the change of the ordinance to this parcel will have a devastating effect on the area around us, along Pond Road, which has all kinds of issues with floodwatering now, and properties that are actually adjacent to it or across the street from it will be flooded. The idea of putting 20 homes, or the possibility that 20 homes could be built in this parcel of land, which I have personally walked in, is, in my thought, just outrageous. The environmental impact will be substantial, and it will absolutely have an absolute effect on our community as well as the communities that surround us. So again, I would ask on behalf of the Lakeshore residents, whose names I have in the petition, that you would not approve this ordinance change. Thank you.
Kathy Summers.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for your time. It appears this 20-39 ordinance is pretty popular tonight. I'm here to speak about the same thing. My name's Kathy Summers, and I live on Pond Road, directly adjacent to the property in question, the 16 acres on Pond Road that is, quote, up for sale or trade with this ordinance. I'm actually representing the property owners and the Georgetown County residents that are on Pond Road and Limestone. Our properties on Limestone Street is a dead end, is directly adjacent to the wetland properties that is in question here. It's mostly wetlands. This wetland is very highly functioning in several ways that directly benefits our community. We have mating pairs of owls, hawks, pileated woodpeckers. We have deer, we have fox, we have raccoon, even turkey, that have inhabited this property for many, many decades. I've personally lived there for 24 years. Some of my neighbors have lived there since the early 80s. In addition, the flooding that occurs from storm runoff on Limestone to Pond Road feeds directly into this wetland, draining our properties, as well as numerous neighboring properties, including the Lynxbrook area to the north side of Pond Road. If you've been down Pond Road in the past 10 years or driven through even lately, you'll notice there has been major developments that have gone on in recent years, and there's still development that is going on. You're aware of the new water tower that's already been cleared. Our lakeshore neighbors to the west of that, and then all in the same vicinity in a very short footprint is yet again another clearing for another home development to go in. I know some of the other people who have talked about this are speaking of 20 homes going in or development. I'm not sure if that is your intent. The way that I see the way that you've stated the ordinance is that you just want to make it available for sale or for trade, to consider it as a surplus. In our eyes, not only for the environment that is there, but also us who inhabit it, it is not a surplus. We depend heavily on this wetland to drain our properties. At a later date, when there's more time, any of you who are interested, I have flooding documentation on my phone from recent storms. I have documentation of the wildlife that is in the area, and not only are we passionate about our wildlife, and we do need to preserve some green spaces in Murrells Inlet, but it's really up to you. And tonight is our chance for you to really listen to the people in Murrells Inlet and on Pond Road who've been there and witnessed the changes, to vote this down. We do not want it developed. We don't want a whole lot of things coming in that can be detrimental to our personal property, our community, our county, and our environment. Thank you for the time. And also, it would be great, each of you have received emails from me. I'd love to have some responses with some of my constituents, and here are some signatures from my community as well. Thank you.
Wesley Gibson.
Good evening. Bishop Smith spoke very good tonight, and he makes a lot of sense. But I'm coming before council tonight with a concern for my community about the noose situation. The individual who designed, constructed, and proudly displayed this noose in a parks and recreation vehicle is still employed by the county. That bothers me. On June 23rd, 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Georgetown County drafted and unanimously passed resolution number 20-15 addressing racial equality, stating Georgetown County Council adamantly condemns any and all acts of racism and discrimination. Georgetown County commits itself not only to address the system of institutional racism, but to also proactively identify and address all biases and institutional barriers that perpetuate the injustice or inequality in our community. You have a copy in front of you in case you don't remember that. You also have a copy of a picture of the noose hanging from a park and recreation vehicle. We have, all of you raised your hand, and I asked council tonight, where do you stand on this? If the resolution was followed, I wouldn't be here tonight. Citizens for Progress doesn't want to come before you and complain all the time, but we must make council aware of how their actions affect our community. The picture in front of you clearly shows a knot, a noose. The noose symbolizes pain, anguish, hate, and most of all, death to blacks. We have 3 African Americans sitting on council. How can you sit in silence? Many of your ancestors died at the end of a rope similar to this. They died so you can sit where you are right now. To continue to sit in silence is an insult to your ancestors and to those who you represent. July 16, 2020, a county firefighter was terminated for making racist comments and posting racist symbols on his page. I'm asking, what is the difference in writing something that you feel racist and getting fired for it, and openly displaying a noose in a county vehicle? The answer is none. Both individuals, according to the resolution that this county unanimously passed, should have been terminated. In closing, the severity of openly displaying a noose and a lack of action taken is sending a message to our community that Resolution 20-15 isn't worth the paper it's written on. A noose of any size speaks volumes and projects hatred. There's an old saying that my grandma used to say, and she said, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Both of them should go. Thank you.
Marvin Neal.
Again, good evening. I don't need a Bishop Smith 2 minutes, but I thank y'all for allowing me to speak tonight. Good evening to Ms. Christian, our new county administrator, Chairman Thomas, and present council members. We are here tonight to continue our quest for termination of an employee that deemed it was necessary to display a noose in a Georgetown County government vehicle that's being paid for by the taxpayers that sits there tonight, and on Choppy, where the noose was displayed. As you know, the persons that are here tonight and those that signed 800 plus petition signatures, I think it's over 900 now. Most of you have it already that it pertains to you. Is asking for termination. Those are voters in this precinct, in this district. Their voice are being sent loudly to you all tonight. The decision to spend for 2 weeks and give sensitivity training is not the answer to a racist, Confederate flag flying employee that works for Georgetown County government that deems he thinks it's necessary to park a vehicle in front of Choppy, historical Choppy, black community, black high school, and display it and ride around with it. And sensitivity training is given and 2 weeks without pay. Ha ha, he said. If what you have done is the standards, then where do we go from here? We in trouble, and you've only put a patch on the situation. What happened to the sensitivity of those seniors that walked by that vehicle for the 3 weeks that we know of that he have parked that vehicle there and ride around in our community with, that we pay taxpayers dollars for? I sent you a copy of the damage of a noose to an 8-year-old boy recently. It was a prank in a park. 3 white young men of his age, a little older, decided to play a prank. And the damage that was done to that young man that I sent to you tonight, and he's living. Many of our ancestors died from it, but he is living. That's the damage of a noose. Racism is taught. It's not a black and white or color issue. It's racism. And the situation is racism and blacks. That's why black lives do matter. In this case, obviously it don't. The resolution that you passed, 20-15, means nothing. It was a photo op. Have anyone considered the community in this situation? When the department head says fire him, and that didn't happen, then the questions come back to us, what happened? We haven't gotten that answer yet. 400 years of racism and terrorist acts against black communities. And our elected official decides to put a patch on it again. This is a senseless and very inconsiderate decision that you have made. You just put a Confederate-minded, racist person in charge of our community. That's exactly what you did. Now is the time to send a strong message and ask you to terminate him now. Your resolution that Chairman Thomas signed in June followed the George Floyd murder is useless because Black lives matters. Our county policies are useless, and you have proven that. Over the last 43 days of contemplating what should you do, even though I understand a decision was made, but that could also be changed. Resolution 20-15 have no meaning. The standard should have been zero tolerance. Even before you put out the resolution, Black Lives Matters. We don't see Black Lives Matters. These racist individuals have no regards to our taxpayers and no regards to you that sits there tonight. I ask you all to do your job. Give Black lives a chance. And please get real about what you're doing. It is our duty, your duty, my duty also, to protect the taxpayers of Georgetown County. I pray that this board would treat people in Georgetown and the rural areas, people, lives, as it treat property where the richest of those live. We could argue and the board have every say-so about what happens to property, but you're very quiet for what happens to people. That's a problem. That is a problem. Obviously, people is expendable, but God put people in charge of everything. Put you in charge of Georgetown County. Bishop Smith said it well tonight. But we shouldn't let hate, Confederate mindset people, hateful people, to disrespect and how they respond to the citizens of Georgetown by placing a vehicle in front of a choppy site. They flew a Confederate flag here last year. That got quiet. Policies are supposed to change. That's a board's decision. Policy is a board's decision. Have that policy changed yet? The answer is no. So I know what will happen with this policy. It'd go under the rug like everything else. 8-year-old black boy. And that sheet that I passed out to you tonight, a white judge, rude. 3 white teenagers boys went before a white judge in New Hampshire where the judge let them go scot-free and said, I quote, there is no reason to mess up 3 lives of 3 young men because of a mistake. Ain't that something? It was a mistake when it came to a black 8-year-old boy. That's the perfect example of the privileges that Confederate mindset people and hate and how it's accepted in Georgetown County. and across America. Hate is taught in every color. Those 8-year-old boys stand a chance. They could get sensitivity training, and they might recover. But a 15-year employee of Georgetown County government, 15 years, parked their vehicle in front of choppy site, ride around with it, and you all give them a pat on the hand and say, thank you, continue to terrorize the people of the black community. Choppy, choppy. Y'all need to keep that in mind. We are done dying, but we're not done fighting. I guarantee you, we'll be at the next county council meeting and at the next county council meeting. Y'all know how we roll. We're not going anywhere. We're going to pray for you, but y'all need to pray for the families out there while y'all making decisions. People are more valuable than any piece of property that we have. Y'all need to treat it that way. You get elected for that purpose. I need to hear the voice of my black councilmen, all of my black councilmen. I expect to hear your voice. Even when I sent you an email, at least respond back to me. I voted for you, for each one of you. Y'all make decisions for the entire county. I like to hear your voice, but I'll send you an email. Thank you very much. Chairman Thomas, thank you for your time.
Ebony Hughes.
Good evening. My name is Ebony Hughes. It's just amazing to me that Bishop Smith came here and he spoke in the same tones that Dr. King made over 40 years ago. And we've improved a lot, but you know we still have a long, long way to go. I'm also here to speak on the situation with the county employee with the news riding around in a county-owned vehicle. I'm actually from the area, a predominantly black area. And this affects us, that this type of behavior is continuing to still go on. I would like to say that I am disappointed at the actions or lack of actions of the county administration and the board when it comes down to the news found in that vehicle. How many times will you hit the snooze button on this issue? When will you become transparent about the actions taken toward this incident? I've seen many comments about the rope, about the noose. If anyone's been part of a scout, I've been part of the Girl Scout. I was raised up by my father. He was an outdoorsman. He showed me how to tie different type of knots. We caught different types of fish. There's certain knots that you tie with ropes, and they're strong enough so that you can hoist different items. But when you tie the rope the way that employee tied and twirled that rope, it's not a rope anymore, it's called a noose. That noose is specifically designed to put around a person's neck, and you hang them, you kill them with it, in case anybody didn't know. It's designed to terrorize people. It's designed to kill people after you catch them. They usually hang from a tree. That's what that's for, and the looks of things, from the looks of the pictures, he did a very good job of tying that rope into a noose, designed to kill. I'm not going to be redundant, but in case you haven't seen the picture of the child, they dismissed that and said it was a mistake. That's the type of tone that's set in this county, that it was just a mistake and that sensitivity training will help. That doesn't work. A wise man told me years ago, you have to find a reason why you wake up in the morning and do what you do. What moves you, what drives you, what motivates you? Are your reasons because of your children? Some people have many reasons. I have reasons. But tonight I want to know, what is your reasons for being on county council? Why did you run? What are your reasons why? I want to know your reasons why. when it comes down to county council? Is it to serve the people? If so, serve them. Taxpayers pay for you to act and for you to respond to them. I sat in the very same seats when you announced the Black Lives Matter resolution. I thought, man, this is awesome. We're headed in a step in the right direction. But as we see, it's only been a couple months, and as it comes down to this incident, it doesn't have any value to it because we have not been shown that Black Lives Matter. Words are just words. Love is an action word. You can't just tell somebody you love them, or hey, I'll serve you, and you don't. Right now, you're getting paid to love me. You wrote that. Show us that you love us. I have a child that serves in the United States military. She serves this country, and we need the country to serve her back. You are the boss of the county administrator, not the other way around. If she made a decision that was out of line, it is your job, it is your duty to just do what is right. Thank you for your time.
Deontay Winchester.
Good evening. On July 28th, members of community groups, including South Carolina Solid and the NAACP, came before this council to request appropriate action be taken to protect the safety and well-being of members of this community who continue to feel unheard, misrepresented, and unprotected. The response from this body has been negligible at best. I ask each of you this evening, where do you stand? As a leader in this county, we expect you to be anti-racist and speak against racism and hateful rhetoric. Where is your voice? Your silence is deafening. Resolution 20.15, as many have spoken tonight, and I don't want to be redundant, but it says Georgetown County Council commits itself not only to address the systems of institutional racism, but also to proactively identify and address biases, practices, policies, and institutional barriers that perpetuate injustice and inequality in our county. That's a nice statement, and it sounds really nice coming off the tongue, doesn't it? But what does it really mean? When do you all intend to start addressing these systems of racism? 1 decade and 7 years later, and Dr. King's dream still has yet to be realized. You see, because freedom has yet to ring from Stone Mountains of Georgia. Not when a young black man like myself can't run in those streets and not be gunned down and killed. Freedom has yet to ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. Not when it's still the most segregated state in this nation. And it took until 2020 for them to consider taking a Confederate symbol from their state flag. And let's not forget about the Palmetto State. Freedom has yet to ring here in South Carolina. Not when Georgetown County employees are emboldened to hang a noose from the rearview mirror of a Parks and Recreations vehicle, paid for by tax dollars. And then after admitting to the malfeasance, individuals like you all, county leaders, protect that individual as opposed to protecting the community. Addressing systems of racism, as stated in Resolution 20.15, appears to be inherently difficult when you all have become effectively a part of that racist system you claim to want to address. This morning I saw that same article that many have spoken of today about the young man, 8-year-old black boy hung from the neck by 3 teenage white boys. That touched home for me because that boy isn't much younger than my youngest son. So when we see things like this, when we see threats of racial justice, we must take them seriously. And I don't want to hear that things like that don't happen nowadays because it's obvious that they do. They happen even if we hear about it here or not. So how long if this is not addressed before young black boys are hung in these streets? How long before they come for my sons? Or any son of Georgetown for that matter? The petition online right now has over 900 signatures. Mr. Morant, Ms. Kristen, and others on this body have that petition. Citizens are fed up. We are sick and tired of checks y'all don't intend to cash. We are sick and tired of empty promises of freedom and equality. If black lives truly matter to you all, prove it. Resolution 20.15 amounts to nothing but fluff until you act upon it. The time is now. The time for justice is now. The time to live up to 20.15 is now. The time to serve the people of this community is now. The time to do what we elected y'all to do is now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when y'all feel like it. Now. The time for freedom is, will be, and always has been now. Right now. We need you to do y'all job.
Frederick Williams.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Thank you for your time. I will be brief. I would like to just echo on the back of Bishop Smith and his ecumenical colleagues. We need to come together in a more fair and equitable manner. Each and every one of you up there, I think you all know who I am. I'm the president of the West End Citizens Council. You know me and I know you. Don't pull punches. But what needs to happen, given the climate that we currently live in and have been living in, you guys, nobody have to inform you. You know what needs to happen. Your primary, one and only job as a representative is to do what? The will of the people. Thus far, you're lagging. You're not doing the will of the people. You think you guys are just so intellectually smart that you just automatically know. No, you don't. You make decisions based on what you think you know. Most times you're wrong. And if you weren't, the people who have came here tonight wouldn't be talking in the tones that they are. I think it's long overdue for us to just get real with one another. I'm under no illusions that what we're talking about, the racism part of the equation, it's not going anywhere. It took decades and hundreds of years for those of power and thoughts of superiority to build that. Well, it was always just an illusion. It was always just an illusion. It never was based in fact. And it's time to knock it off. We are just holding up the show against one another. There's no illusion in my mind. Whites aren't going anywhere. They may be somewhat confused as to, well, the blacks need to go back to Africa. We did not ask to come here. But we have made major contributions since we've been here. So that mindset doesn't bode so well for me as far as a mindset. That's not thinking correctly. We're not going anywhere. On top of that, I want to just leave you guys with this. Every time I come here, we are always concerned with the citizenry of the West End of Georgetown. Historically, you have never done the right thing, and to this day, you still haven't. And I've been out of town, I'll be in and out. But I thought I would drop in tonight just to see if anything has changed. Nothing has changed, not a thing. But what I would like to leave you guys with And I want each and everybody, not just the council members, everybody in here. There's a program called, a documentary. It's based in science. It's called The Real Eve. It's going to blow you away if you took the time to look at it. It will eradicate any thought you may have had on racism and cultures. That will blow you away. The program is called The Real Eve and is aired on PBS. Go find it. It will change your entire mindset about racism in this country and abroad. I thank you for your time.
Minister John Henry.
Good evening, Georgetown County members, citizens of Georgetown County. I try to be as brief as possible. As I sit in the audience, I was deeply disturbed. Everything that I wanted to mention, and I will mention it, it disturbed me. Here we are, 2020, still talking about racism. We all is in this pandemic. We all on the same ship. Everybody's wearing masks, practicing social distance, not only from yourself, but from your family. Shameful. What God do you believe in? My name is John Henry. I am the Chief Elder Minister of the New Gullah Geechee Village coming to Georgetown, South Carolina, in Georgetown County. In 2013, my organization, which I am the CEO, president and founder of Save Our Youth and Family Annual March, located at 1527 here in Georgetown, South Carolina. There's some property that we was looking at, over 9 acres in the county, which we still have mine and operations to do. My nonprofit organization created for the whole state of South Carolina an economic development plan for our people. I'm not racist, I'm not biased, but I see that our people are in the most direst needs. So I have to focus on the ones and for the voiceless. I am that one. Our economic development plan will create over 5,000 jobs in Horry County. Also, is willing to build over 10,000 low to moderate income homes. I went 9 months ago in front of a council like this, which was the City of Georgetown Council, and I put reparations on the board as the first black man in the history of South Carolina, and I'm still pushing that. So I come in front of this council as well as one of my last stomping grounds to bring in the front of you too. We all want to create jobs. We all want better communities. My next step from here is back to Columbia, and then from Columbia to Washington, D.C. We have to, if nobody want to care for us, we have to care for ourselves. And we have the power to do just that. We don't have to beg nobody for anything. As of this day, I'm standing on my square and representing my people because we are the chosen people. We are the first and the last coming out of ancient Egypt and Kemet. Do the research. Y'all don't put this in the history books. As far as you go with slavery, take them back to Egypt. Who built the pyramids and the Sphinx? I have love. I have my flaws and my faults, but I make men's meat. I have 15 grandkids, and 2 great-grand. I homeschool my daughter, and she just graduated and got a job. Because I've seen how the school system is. I've seen how social dissonance was affecting everybody's lives. So I stand here and plead with you. You got good hearts. You really do. Sometimes you have to sacrifice like we all are sacrificing. So do the right thing. I don't want to have to come back here, but I love to come here and see exactly what our community hearts and minds feel like. So it gives me an idea, are we pushing forward to the 21st century? Or are we gonna go back to the 18 and the 1700s? I'm also, in my conclusion, I'm sending positive energy around the world for healing, spiritual growth, and protection. Thank you.
John Enoch.
Mr. Chairman, council members, Madam Administrator, good evening. It is a pleasure for me to come before you this evening. My name is Joseph J. Enoch, and I'm here on behalf of the Greek letter sororities, fraternities, and social fellowship organization chapters located in Georgetown County. We are international incorporated organizations with several 100,000 members each. Currently, the Georgetown International Public Service organizations I am specifically referring to are Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and Groove Phi Groove Social Fellowship Incorporated. The pandemic has prevented us from formally welcoming our new administrator to Georgetown. So on behalf of our organizations, we extend a cordial welcome to you and your family to Georgetown County, the county of versatility and diversity, inclusive of our 5 rivers. Ms. Angela Christian, County Administrator, thank you for coming to Georgetown. You have arrived here in trying times, but you have not let it hinder you. You stepped in and hit the ground running. We were looking at a budget deficit. You came in, conferred with your staff, reconstructed some things, presented and had council to pass a balanced budget for the fiscal year. It may not provide everything for everyone, but it provides workable parameters. Thank you for that. As residents of Georgetown County, we need someone who can make tough decisions to continue moving this county forward. We realize all decisions may not be favored by all, but we ask that you make them in the best interest of Georgetown County. By doing so, and not getting flooded in the matters not conducive to improving the lives of our citizens, Georgetown County remains strong. Our organization plays a pivotal role in improving the lives of our residents. We assist in educational opportunities by providing school readings, mentoring programs, leadership programs, and scholarships to our students, to name a few. We seek to continue these, and by doing so, believe Georgetown County will be stronger and unified. These initiatives help to have a better prepared workforce for businesses desiring to locate here. We need to continue to drive to get the citizens to complete their census forms. We need to continue voting registration drives and encouraging people to vote. We need to continue educating our residents on the importance of completing their sentence forms and the importance of voting. These matters can lead to things of importance like equality in our justice system, affordable housing, jobs with higher wages, and economic stability. These are some of the issues we seek and are willing to continue working with Georgetown County to attain. Together, we can accomplish much. We need to continue putting our strength forward so others will know we are unified and desire the best for all. When one rises, all rise. Let us continue projecting the best part of Georgetown so we can move our county forward for the betterment of all. After all, we are known nationally as one of the best small counties. Let us not tarnish that. Thanks for all you do, and we welcome you to be Georgetown Strong. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's the final speaker, other than the comments submitted by Mr. Gary Weinrich that you have before you.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for both the emergency council meeting from July the 2nd, 2020, and the regular council session, July 22nd, 2020. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Charlton. Is there a second?
I second it, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Newton. All in favor? Any opposed? Approval of the minutes. By approving the agenda, the items on the consent agenda are approved. They are ordinance number 20-27, ordinance number 20-32, procurement 20-49, RFQ 20-36, contract 15-73, and bid 20-40. We next come to public hearings. Open the floor for any comments on pertaining to ordinance number 20-28. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing for ordinance number 20-28 and open the floor for any comments on ordinance number 20-30. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing for ordinance number 20-30. We'll open the floor for any comments on ordinance number 20-31. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing for ordinance number 20-31. We next come to second reading of ordinances. Ordinance number 20-34 to rezone approximately 6 acres located on Ocean Highway. Mr. Johnson? I hope not. Oh, it did. Hang on, Mr. Johnson. Okay. My glasses steam up because of this thing, and I flipped the page. We'll get to you in a minute, Mr. Johnson. Also on the consent agenda is procurement 20-49, RFQ 20-36, contract 15-73, and bid 20-40. Okay. I think I did the public hearings. We next come to appointments to boards and commissions. I recommend the appointment of Mr. Thomas Onions to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I so move. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Goggins. All in favor? Any opposed? Congratulations to Mr. Onions. Resolutions and proclamations. Proclamation number 20-17 to proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week in Georgetown County. Mr. Bryant.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, good evening.
Thank you.
This is a proclamation in support of Constitution Week for 2020, the Constitution of the United States, which is the document that actually allows this process we have before us, was signed on September 17, 1787. That is almost 233 years ago. It's worth noting that it established the longest constitutional democracy in the history of the world so far. This is an effort on behalf of the federal government to emphasize citizens' responsibility for protecting and defending the Constitution, to inform people that the Constitution is the basis for America's heritage and the foundation for this democratic way of life, and to also encourage the study of historical events which led to the framing of the Constitution in 1787. This year, the week is September 17th through 23rd, and this proclamation hereby does proclaim that week as Constitution Week in Georgetown County, and does hereby ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals held by the framers of the Constitution by protecting the freedoms and privileges it guarantees to us, and remembering that lost rights may never be regained. This is something that you do every year, and we would ask that you do it again this year. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer that. Please don't go too deep into the Constitution. It's been a few years since I had that in law school.
If no questions, all in favor of proclamation number 20-17? Need a motion. Motion to approve proclamation 20-17.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Ms. Johnson. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Newton. All in favor? Any opposed? Proclamation 20-17 is adopted. Next, we come to resolution number 20-18, supporting an application to the Grand Strand Area Transportation Study for funding of Phase 2 of the I-2I multipurpose path. Mr. Johnson, are you going to set this one up for us?
Yes, this is an application, as you said, to GSATs for funding for Phase 2 of the bike path or multipurpose path project. Merle's Inlet 2020 has been undertaken in Merle's Inlet. Approximately $638,000 of funding has become available at GSATs. This is in Merle's Inlet. It's about a $2.8 million project. So, the Merle's folks would come up with the balance of that. $638,000 would. As you know, they finished Phase 2, I guess, a year or so ago. Phase 1. Phase 2 is primarily down Wachesaw Road and part of Old Kings Highway. I believe this application has to be submitted this month to GSAT for funding consideration. The reason this project is being the project that we're addressing with the resolution, it had to be essentially a shovel-ready project. It couldn't be for any project that was, on the board, but engineering or surveying, et cetera, had not already been done.
Anyone on council have questions for Mr. Johnson? I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 20-18.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt proclamation number 20-18.
Motion by Mr. Morant. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Goggins. All in favor? Any opposed? The resolution is approved. Next, we come to proclamation number 20-19 in recognition of Juneteenth Independence Day. Mr. Carolina.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proclamation 20-19 is for the recognition of Juneteenth Independence Day. Slavery and the end of slavery is part of the history and heritage of the United States. Currently, 45 states, including South Carolina and the District of Columbia, have laws designating Juneteenth, Independence Day, as a special day of observance in recognition of the emancipation of all slaves in the United States. Georgetown County Council supports the continued nationwide celebration of Juneteenth to provide an opportunity for the people of the United States to learn more about the past and understand the experiences that have shaped our nation. Proclamation 2019 proclaims Georgetown County's support of state legislature to designate June 19th as a statewide holiday in South Carolina rather than a special day, recognizing the historical significance of Juneteenth in acknowledgement of the African American history in our state of South Carolina. So it shall be proclaimed that Georgetown County does hereby proclaim support of state legislature to designate June 19th as a statewide holiday in South Carolina rather than a special day of observance, fully recognizing the historical significance of Juneteenth in acknowledgement of the African American history in our state of South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Carolina. Is there a motion to approve proclamation number 20-19? Motion by Mr. Goggins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Proclamation number 20-19 is approved. We now come to third reading of ordinances. Ordinance number 20-28 to amend the future land use map for a property off of Highway 521 bypass and Highway 41. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. Item 10 and 10 are related. As you said, the 10A is the change the future land use map for approximately 21 of Andrews. That would be changing the map from low-density residential to commercial. If I could, I'll just go ahead and tell you 10B is the follow-up to that for that very same property, the 21 acres. And that is to rezone the property from R1 half to general commercial. Nothing has changed at all since second reading.
Any questions from council for Mr. Johnson on either of these two ordinances? In that case, we'll entertain a motion for ordinance number 20-28.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 20-28 and also number 20-29.
Two motions from Mr. Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
For both of them?
Yes.
Okay. Second from Mr. Carolina. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Third reading ordinance approval is third reading of ordinance 20-28 and 20-29 is approved. Ordinance number 20-30, future amendment to the future land use map for a property off of Highway 521 and Cat Claw Road. Mr. Johnson.
And like the other we just talked about, both C and D are related to the same property. As you said, the future land use map for this 14.5 acres located near the intersection of Cat Claw Road and Highway 521 bypass south of Andrews. This property, the future land use map, industrial to low-density residential. This is that property, by the way, that I noted to you at the last meeting, that we actually found that somehow when we zoned all of Georgetown County, we missed this property. And as far as the property owner has asked that we zone it to FA, so this would be going from unzoned to FA. And again, nothing has changed since second reading.
Any questions from Mr. Johnson? Entertain a motion for ordinance 20-30 and 20-31.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we adopt ordinance 20-30 and 20-31.
Motion by Mr. Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Mr. Moran. Any discussion? All in favor of ordinance 20-30 and ordinance 20-31, signify by raising your hands. Any opposed? Those two ordinances are approved on third reading. We move to second reading of ordinances. Ordinance number 20-34 to rezone approximately 6.7 acres on Ocean Highway, the Litchfield Oaks Plan Development.
Yes, sir. We received an application from Dan Stacy as agent for the Owens Holdings at Litchfield, Dr. Charles Wright, EBB Real Estate, and Thomas W. Fox to rezone approximately 6.7 acres. This acreage is currently inside the Litchfield Oaks Plan Development. These folks have basically, in a nutshell, I think the POA had a meeting and it has been voted to dissolve that POA, or at least it was voted, a better way to say it is for these properties to come out of the PD and be zoned general commercial. That's the request. Currently, there's a liquor store, a dentist office, a dance studio, an auto repair facility, and an office building all inside this PD. The total PD is 12.64 acres. The balance from the 12.6 to the 6.7 would remain as a planned development. This was heard before the Planning Commission. I mean, you've all seen properties. A lot of discussion at the Planning Commission level was primarily about setbacks, not so much about uses. We had a lot of discussion about just amending something coming out of a PD versus just amending versus staying at a PD, I guess is the way to say it. The bottom line is, after a lot of discussion, the Planning Commission, by a 4-3 vote, is recommending that you rezone these particular properties, this 6.7 acres, to general commercial and leave the balance alone. This would not require any kind of future land use amendment or anything like that. So that's essentially the Planning Commission recommendation, is to designate this property as general commercial. And the uses that are already there would be compatible with what's allowed in general commercial anyway.
Any questions from Mr. Johnson, Council?
What is the overriding reason the applicant wishes to leave the PD?
Well, again, there's several property owners. I think this issue, and Dan can certainly correct me, I think originally it probably came up with the issue of food trucks. I suspect we've had a lot of discussions, particularly with the folks that who own the Owens Liquor property, about having food trucks there. That particular PD did not allow a food truck, period, so they couldn't have any. By coming out of the PD, they could have one, because we allow one food truck on any general commercial property. They could not have multiple food trucks as our ordinance is written today. I think that was the genesis of it. Again, that was primarily just talking with the Owens Liquor Store. I think just as they had various POA meetings over the various months talking about this issue, the more they talked about it, I think it was just decided that since all these uses were allowed in general commercial anyway, they were already built, that it was best just for them to dissolve to some degree and become general commercial.
Okay. The road network in there, is it private or
It's,
how is
I
it
believe if I'm not mistaken, I think the county has been deeded the main road going in.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. They're definitely not DOT roads.
Okay. And are we meeting setback requirements? And
They, of course, they're meeting it today. That PD was approved with, I think, a 50-foot front setback, which many PDs were. The Owens Liquor Store and the HIA building do not meet the 90 feet, which, of course, that would be the new setback requirement. We had a lot of discussion with that. If those buildings would be non-conforming, if they were to be destroyed in a hurricane or burned down or go away for any reason, they could not be built back in the same location. Both parties have, and that was a big discussion at the Planning Commission, both parties clearly told the Planning Commission they understood that, they could live with it, they didn't mind it, and, but we stressed that they would have to meet the 90-foot setback. Truthfully, the Owens property is fairly large. I mean, they could, I don't think with a lot of trouble. The HIA property is not as deep, so they would have to do a good bit of redesign if something was to ever happen.
I am.
Steve, let me ask a question.
Sure.
If they stayed in the PD and catastrophe happened, they could build back on their footprint?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So that's the drawback about leaving
That's
the PD?
That was something that staff discussed.
And they are all aware of this?
They are clearly aware of that. We talked about that at length.
I guess I'm a little troubled that I want to support the applicant on the one hand, but on the other hand, a PD will not allow, or we don't allow food trucks in PDs, correct?
That's correct. Well, yes, that's correct.
How do we correct that?
Well, you could have a PD and just add food trucks to that particular PD. This PD, there was a request to add food trucks to this PD about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was denied by the county. I can't remember what I think the Planning Commission recommended against it, and County Council, of course, accepted the Planning Commission's recommendation. So that has been attempted once. Like I said, that was several years ago, and it was previously denied.
Well, it's unfortunate that it was denied. I think food trucks, you know, if all the people within the PUD agree, should be typically allowed, but that's another argument for another time. Okay. I think my questions are answered.
So these business owners, I don't know how many we're talking about here in that area.
Four.
They're willing to forego the PD and gamble just in order to do general commercial, and basically it's due to food trucks.
Well, that's not the only reason. Like I said, that was my
one
understanding.
of the reasons.
Well, that's when this issue came up, of the PD versus general commercial.
But there's other mitigating factors that want them to leave the PD? There's other factors that won't, that I guess they're trying to improve their business, as all business people are. And they think this is going to improve their business if they leave the PD.
I don't know. I don't know if that's their thought or not.
Has there ever been any consideration in Georgetown County to create an area designated for food trucks to do business, such as Charleston has a situation, Charlotte, and other areas, because that is a trend of the future, and that's also a draw for tourism, etc. Not that you're in an approximate area where to fixed restaurant areas, but an area designated away from a collection of food businesses.
Food truck ordinances are, like you said, are very popular now. I think Horry County had passed one not too long ago. We have never, frankly, even discussed that. One of the reasons we have it is we felt like we were pretty liberal as we stand today. Every general commercial piece of property in Georgetown County can have a food truck out front. The only reason these folks can't is because it's in a PD, and this particular PD doesn't allow it. The mere fact that we allow it, and you think of all the hundreds of general commercial properties on the Waccamaw Neck, for example, but this would be true anywhere else in the county that was on general commercial. You know, there's a lot of places they can go. Now, the problem comes, like you said, if more than one wants to go on the property, that would be something we don't allow today. I think if we did have an ordinance, that'd probably be the main thing we'd have to look at, was, you know, how we would want them, the congregation of them. So we don't ban them in Georgetown County.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, were there any discussions regarding whether there are any negative impact to the other property owners within that PD?
This, pretty much every property owner in the commercial part of this PD, which is what we're talking about today, certainly was well aware of this, and you know, this is not a secret to anybody.
So there are no oppositions by them?
No, sir. Mr. Stacy may have some more to add, particularly as far as their thinking. Again, I'm kind of focused on food trucks, but I know there's other things that he knows that maybe I don't. So if you would like any more information.
Any other questions from council for Mr. Johnson?
I just, in the perfect world, I'm kind of curious why the food truck failed when it was requested to be, the PUD was requested to be amended, but of course now
Surprisingly, there was a good bit of opposition. Some of it right there inside the PD, which apparently doesn't exist today, but it was a pretty hot item at that time. It may not be in the future, but it was back then.
Interesting. Okay.
Being no further questions, Chair will open it up for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 20-34.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. Morant. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Ordinance 20-34 is approved on second reading. Ordinance number 20-35, an amendment to Article 8.
This is a text change. We're constantly looking at for various issues as technology changes, as issues come up. You know, we may be bringing you a shooting range ordinance one year, or a solar farm ordinance another year. We, of course, as you know, on the Waccamaw Neck, particularly with the having the architectural overlay, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about the architectural elements. We have a 35-foot height limit in Georgetown County, and we, as you would expect, like just about every county, we have certain things that are exempt from the height ordinance, like flagpoles and towers and conveyor belts and smokestacks, although we don't have a lot of those around, except right here around Georgetown, obviously. Observation towers. We decided there were other things that we were missing that sometimes we debate in our office, and we just wanted to go ahead and clarify it and put it so we can handle these issues smoother in our office. Things like guardrails around the roof of a house, HVAC components, solar energy equipment is a big issue now, elevator equipment, structures, and shafts. We felt it was important to go ahead and add those to our list of exempt items. Again, this doesn't increase the 35 feet at all. This just adds to those. Specific to elevators, because they could have a little bit larger structure, we did say elevators, equipment on structures and shafts. However, we said they shall not be higher than the peak of a pitched roof, or if you have a generally flat roof, they cannot be more than 8 feet in height. Again, if you were thinking about along Highway 17 where the architectural overlay is on the neck, we require a 6'12", pitched roof, so they could not exceed the height of the roof in those care areas. You know, we talked about handicap accessibility, fire codes, etc., and of course the fire codes would not be impacted in any way. Handicap accessibility would be promoted. Alternate energy sources, that was primarily thinking about obviously solar energy panels. This would not have anything to do with somebody putting solar energy, panels on the roof of their on the roof of their house, unless they were exceeding the 35 feet, I suppose. But anyway, this would bring our ordinance into what we think's compliance with what's really needed in the future in the county.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Entertain a motion for ordinance number 20-35.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 20-35.
Motion by Mr. Goggins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Moran. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Ordinance number 20-35 is approved on second reading.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 20-36 to amend the comprehensive plan's future use map to reflect a reclassification of a parcel on Macklin Avenue.
36, like we did for the third readings, this also relates to ordinance number 20-37. We received an application to rezone a parcel of land on Macklin Avenue near Macklin and Spanner in Merle's Inlet. And the Planning Commission held a hearing on this. The zoning request was to go from general residential, which is our high-density residential, to MD medical district. The future land use map for this site specifically showed it as medium density, even though it's already zoned high density. The future land use map would need to be updated to transitional. Transitional is a designation we have for things like neighborhood commercial, medical district, basically a lower intense level of commercial. The Planning Commission did, as I said, talk about this rezoning at length. This is an application at 646, specifically at 646 Macklin Avenue. The owner of that property would like to have some type of medical facility there, where there's a medical massage, doctor's office, or whatever it may be. That's essentially the only thing an MD could do. You couldn't put a convenience store or a restaurant or anything like that. Surrounding properties are zoned general residential, like this property. Its medical uses are located about 250 feet away from this property. There's single-family residences nearby, utilities, duplexes nearby. They would not have a problem with the parking on this property. It's a little over 20,000 square feet of property here. The minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet, so they would actually have enough to obviously cover any kind of office parking. As I said, the future land use map would need to be changed. On July 16th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing. No one spoke to the Planning Commission except for the applicant that night. And after talking about it and studying the issue, the Planning Commission, by a vote of 6 in favor and none opposed, is recommending that you rezone this one lot to the medical district, and also amend the future land use map to transitional.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson from council?
Mr. Johnson, was there any opposition
No, sir.
to the neighbors in the residential areas?
No, sir.
I've received an email concerning, and I'm going from memory here, something to do with a tree.
Ooh, I don't remember anything about a tree. Nobody attended the Planning Commission, but you're right. I do think one person maybe called our office like a week ago or substantially after the hearing, and was really asking questions about it. They weren't certainly vehemently opposed. It didn't sound like. Maybe they did talk about a tree. Can't really remember. Of course, things could change, but the owner of the property plans to use the existing house, so I don't think they plan to build a building on the property at this time. Not saying they couldn't in the future, but I'm not aware of any specific problem with the tree. Yeah, or the property owner is here. course, it being commercial, that would fall under our tree protection ordinance, more so than, you know, if it was a house. So they would have a lot harder time dealing with the tree with it being commercial.
Ma'am, did you have something that you wanted to say?
I'm the applicant, I'm the owner of the property. I just didn't know if you had any questions, I could answer them. There's a couple of oak trees in the front yard, but there's no trees in the backyard. And the backyard is where
Could you
most
speak
of
into the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that there's an oak tree in the front yard, but the backyard, there's no trees. So that's where the parking would be in the backyard.
Is that what you were referring to,
Yeah,
Raymond?
yeah.
I love the oak trees, I'd never do anything to those.
All right, thank you.
If there are no more further questions from Mr. Johnson, Chair will entertain a motion for both ordinances 2036 and 37.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, we adopt ordinance 20-36 and 20-37.
Motion by Mr. Newton, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Ordinance 36 and 37 are approved on second reading. Now move to ordinance number 20-38 to rezone 4.62 acre parcel on Highway 521 east of Andrews.
Yes, sir. I remind you, y'all actually gave this pending ordinance doctrine at the first reading. This is an application by Central Electric Power Cooperative to create a solar energy floating district on this site, which is in the county industrial park. The county actually sold these folks the property, so I think several years ago. It is zoned heavy industry. We are the only neighbor, except for the street. We own the county. We've been the county owned property completely surrounding it. They did bring a application in. It went to the zoning board of appeals. It required a couple of variances. They were granted, so the application and the plan in front of you does factor all that in. They actually received their approval from the board of zoning appeals, I believe, on June the 4th. It did go to the planning commission. There were obviously no opposition at the planning commission. You have to have a minimum of 3 acres to apply for this in Georgetown County. As you said, they've got 4.6 acres, so they meet that. This is very much sort of an educational type facility. That's really what the zoning board of appeals sort of considered. Our ordinance is really kind of designed to hide these things, so make them almost invisible from the road, and in this case it was very, very important to these folks that it be visible. So anyway, the Planning Commission is recommending by a vote of 6 in favor and none opposed that you approve this rezoning and the establishment of this district. By the way, this is the first time that we've had this come up. Our ordinance says any solar farm in Georgetown County, that's the way it comes in. It'll come in as a special floating district, and they will always come to you, and you will have to approve it wherever that site may be.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Chair will entertain a motion for ordinance number 20-38.
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 20-38.
Motion by Mr. Newton, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carolina. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you all very much.
Ordinance number 20-38 is approved on second reading. Ordinance number 20-39. Mr. Bryant?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, ordinance 20-39 is an ordinance to declare as surplus 2 separate parcels of property in the Merle's Inlet area owned by Georgetown County. This is the ordinance you've heard a lot about tonight, and I want you to know I have also taken notes. I want to explain it before we take any action, you may want to remove portions of the ordinance or table the ordinance. But first, let me, if you would indulge me a little bit and explain it. This is the process that we go through to be able to position ourselves to sell publicly owned property. It's a state code requirement that we have these 3 readings in a public hearing. So the first part of this, which is shown as Exhibit A, is a paper right-of-way. That is a portion of right-of-way that was never developed, that is somehow in the hands of Georgetown County. I could not trace, the history back far enough on this one to tell you how it became ours, but it is currently a non-taxed parcel of property that does not have an actual road on it. What is happening with the running water drive, this portion, Exhibit A, the county is doing a stormwater project in that neighborhood. About a block over on LaBruce Lane, there's the need for a stormwater catch basin and some more infrastructure for a stormwater project. The owner of that property is also the owner of this particular property adjacent to Exhibit A. That owner has asked that we grant the ability for her to access her property from the rear from running water over this remnant portion of this paper right-of-way in exchange for an easement for the catch basin area that we need a block over. It's a no-brainer for the county. We need the area, and the current area on running water that we would be exchanging is currently not taxed. This will put it back on the tax roll. It's also about 400 square feet. The portion over on LaBruce is about 300 square feet, so it's a very similar trade, so to speak. That is in here as Exhibit A. The second portion of this, and I want to note that this was a staff initiative, as we have been going through this process for years now to go through county property and declare property that we currently don't have plans for, that we don't have any notion of a future plan, and go through these and present them to you as surplus to divest the county of these properties. So Exhibit B, the second portion, was just included in this ordinance, but as a matter of convenience on my part. And Exhibit B is what we have determined to be about 13 acres now after a subdivision plat was provided by our surveyor. But it is 13 acres on Pond Road. There were some notes, some statements tonight about it being a dump at some point in the past. We did check back at least through the early 90s with local history of folks that were in the area. I was not aware of that, so I did note that, and I do want to investigate that a little bit further. We do not have any sort of DHEC obligations regarding that or any sort of contaminant letters and things like that I'm aware of. So, I can't confirm or deny that, but I do want to investigate that a little bit more. And also to note tonight, there was a comment about the stormwater drainage being reversed and going, different, westerly direction versus an easterly direction and that sort of thing. There was some construction on that road in the last couple of years, and there was an outside engineer that did that work, that did apply for that permit. So we are going to, just as soon as that was said, I was in communication with Stormwater and Public Works, so we're going to check with them and see, get more details about that. So there is a little bit more investigating to do for that particular property, which would end up being about 13 acres as being declared surplus on Pond Road. So with that being said, you do have 2 options tonight. If you are willing to move forward, we would certainly like for you to at least move forward possibly with Exhibit A, which is the running water drive portion. That is something that we are in the need of almost immediately to complete the project. And with that, you can, just make one motion here that directs staff to remove Exhibit B in all reference to Exhibit B, which is the Pond Road portion of this ordinance. Just remove it from this ordinance. That way, this ordinance at third reading will have third reading, at least for Exhibit A, the portion that we have more of an immediate need for, and then it will give us time to explore the Pond Road issues that were brought up tonight, and also to see if there's any other alternate plan that you desire there could be for that property as well. And we'll bring it back at a later time if we decide there is nothing there, or we won't. But it would be wise at least, and we would ask that you would at least move forward with the ordinance and just remove all references to Exhibit B or the Pond Road
portion tonight, and like I said, if you direct us to do that and make the motion in that effect, we'll do that, and it will be back to you at third reading without any reference to the Pond Road property. So any questions, I'll be glad to go over.
Yeah, a couple questions. The paper right away, we can go ahead and approve that.
Yes, sir.
And remove Part B from this ordinance.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, I think in lieu of all the information we've got tonight, that we can, the residents of the north end of Georgetown County, Murrells Inlet, they've expressed their concerns about the property, and I think we need to have a sit-down and some discussion on future use for that area. With that being said, I don't know if anybody up here, but we'll vote on it, but I would highly recommend let's do that for the paper right away, because we definitely, you know, sounds like we need a catch basin for that area, which will help the residents in that area. And it appears that none of them want this to be turned into another residential area. So I'm ready to move forward.
Yes, I'd like to add also, I concur listening to the desires of the citizens in that area, in consideration of thought of developing possibly an environmental functional community park for that community. In my district, in specific communities, we have community parks. And Lambertown has their little community park. North Santee, Sanford, Osita, which is the southernmost part of the county as you go into Berkeley County, and probably the smallest community, they have a community park. With all things considered, let's do our due diligence to come up with an idea and a plan that will accommodate the property owners in that area.
Any more questions for Mr. Bryant? I move for second reading approval of ordinance number 20-39 with the Exhibit B deleted. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Newton. Any discussion? All in favor of approving second reading approval of ordinance number 20-39 and deleting Exhibit B from the ordinance? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we have second reading approval of ordinance number 20-39 with an amendment. There are no first reading of ordinances. We've had the reports to council. The chair recognizes Mr. Carolina for some comments you want to make.
Yes. This is in acknowledgement of the 19th Amendment, which legally guaranteed American women the right to vote. And achieving this milestone required a lengthy and difficult struggle, victory which took decades of agitation and protests. Beginning in the 19th century, several generations of women, suffrage supporters, lectured, wrote, marched, lobbied, and practiced civil disobedience to achieve what many Americans considered a radical change of the Constitution. Few early supporters lived to see final victory. So on the eve of the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote, we salute the women of the United States for all their efforts in serving, in all their efforts as American citizens. August 26, 2020, tomorrow, is the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Carolina. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. We are adjourned.